Hi Wildcats, welcome back. Next installment of organisms we may have seen in class. So looking at planarians next, example of flatworm. In class looked at both brown planarians and black planarians, and here we can see what they look like, magnified under a microscope. All right, kind of starting off here, if we look at their digestive system, they have a feeding tube, a pharynx, that basically can extend out from their body on the bottom side, the ventral side. And basically food would go in through their mouth, travel through the pharynx, and then gets distributed through this, they call it gastrovascular cavity, and it spends some time in there getting digested down. Those nutrients would be absorbed into the surrounding cells. And there's only one opening. So I think most of the, whatever is not digested gets expelled back out. So food comes in, spends some time, gets digested, nutrients absorbed, and then back out. Also in yellow, if we look at their nervous system, they do have a centralized nervous system, and most of the nerves kind of collect here in what they call a ganglion, or it's kind of like their primitive brain. And it's actually just under what they call their eye spots, basically some photoreceptors that probably are more picking up like contrast, shades of gray, not color vision like we would see. And that kind of explains when we watched them under the microscope, when the light was shining from above, they did not like that, and they scooted away. So they're kind of sensitive to light. They do respond to their environment, and they're very photosensitive. They prefer dark places. So they do have their primitive brain, like I said, connected to those eye spots. And then we see these nerve cords kind of going along the length of the body, and a lot of that's to coordinate their movement. So they do have a layer of muscle throughout their body wall there, and that allows them to swim and move through the water. So digestive system and nervous system, kind of basically a bullet cam image of a planarian through a light microscope there. The darkened area, you can see their gut, their gastrovascular cavity, how it kind of branches all through the organism. So we don't need a fancy cardiovascular system. The body's thin enough, and that gut cavity is extensive enough where nutrients can get to where they need to go. If you look here, they can reproduce both sexually and asexually. If they reproduce asexually, typically what happens, part of their tail will just kind of break off from the body, and those cells that are lost in that tail can actually regenerate a whole new flatworm. So that's one way they can reproduce. Part of the tail breaks off, new worm grows. They can also reproduce sexually, and once again we see both male and female parts. So there'd be two different individual flatworms. There'd be a trading of gametes, reproductive cells, and then so basically sexual reproduction and asexual reproduction. So tell you what, researchers have spent a lot of time and effort looking at the ability of these flatworms, these planarians, to regenerate. And this image looks kind of graphic, where here you have a planarian. Let's say you took a scalpel, pair of scissors, you cut through it, and within a matter of a few weeks, you would have two new planarians. Basically, the cells right here, they'd almost kind of revert back to almost like an embryonic state. We as humans, very, very, very early on, as a little embryo, we have stem cells that can become any of the 200 plus different cell types of the body, and they can, as we grow and develop, they differentiate and become your muscle, your bone, all the different cells that make up the body. So here you have cells that kind of persist through adulthood in these flatworms, and when the need be, they can regenerate. We do not have that capacity. If we lose an arm, we do not grow a new arm back. If a planarian is cut in two, you get two new planarians. We took one in class and we split it kind of right down the middle so it looked like a Y, and we're about a week in. Here it says 14 days to regrow. When we're back in school, take a look and see if we actually have two heads that have grown out of that planarian that was kind of split down the middle. I think last year we did some looking online, and a student came across a study where one planarian was cut into nearly 200 different pieces, and every single piece was able to regenerate a brand new adult planarian, given it a few weeks. So pretty impressive ability to regenerate, and that's part of the reason they're being researched so closely, trying to figure out why can they do that, and we as humans, we can't. So, all right, there's the brown planarian, the example we looked at as an example of a flatworm. All right, take care, Wildcats.